And we are live. Welcome to today's lunchtime with Leona. And you know what? Here in the kitchen of Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme, we are sitting down at the lunch table and we're taking the time to take a close look at who the home cook is. Why is the home cook so important? And what is it that they need to do? What do they need to know? And we're thinking about the fact that not only are we talking to seasoned cooks, but we are also taking a look at those who are new and trying to navigate their way into and through the kitchen because it really is all about being able to take care of the family. Now, as I said, this is Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme, and I am so glad to have you here this morning and or this afternoon. Our discussion we started last week about the home cook, and we talked about who the home cook was and looked at their characteristics. We also gave a lot of information back and forth as to why they're important. And so we're going to continue a little bit of that. And you know what? I'm really leaning in this direction because of the fact that we've got the holidays coming and we need, no matter where you are on the journey of cooking, we always have room for improvement. And I know I do. Now, you might be perfect, but I always have room for improvement. And I am so glad to see all of you here today. I am just thankful that you are here today. I know today is a very busy day. A lot of people had so much going on. I'm looking at Ann, and Ann, oh my goodness, I am so glad you're here. Those of you who are in the chat box, if it's okay, I'll go ahead and I will certainly post it. Ann is telling us that she actually lives close to Windsor Castle. And she just didn't think she was going to make it today. And she's been watching Queen Elizabeth, the funeral all day. And certainly I've had it on as well. And yes, absolutely beautiful. And it is certainly at a level for a true lady. Queen Elizabeth was so important, not just to your country, Anne, but also to the world. And she has certainly left a legacy and an impression upon all of us. And so we are certainly sorry that she has transitioned to, we'll say, to a better place. And but the reality of it is that we know that all of us will eventually walk that way. And our hearts and our prayers are with all of you today. For those who have been able to watch the television and watch the services for Queen Elizabeth, I certainly hope that you will at least take whatever time that you have. And if you don't have time to watch it all, watch the part that you can, because certainly it is a beautiful service. Now, as I said, I'm going to kind of zip through a couple of things that we did discuss. But it seemed like the more, as I thought about last week's discussion about the home cook, and in looking at Saturday morning and thinking about our routines, we have a lot going on. Now, typically, and I say typically because, you know, things today are not exactly perfect. And I don't think they ever were, to be honest with you. But most of the time, the home cook is the homemaker for the family. And sometimes the home cook is single and it's just cooking for themselves. Now, there's an advantage of that. And I'm going to throw this in. There is an advantage of trying to get into becoming a home cook while you're single, because then the only person you have to please is yourself. And you can certainly be as adventurous as you possibly want, because you're the person who's going to be eating it. Now, for those of us who are homemakers and we're the home cook, then we know that not only do we have to please ourselves, but we have our families that we have to please. And, sometimes that can be a little tricky. So we're going to look at particularly, and I'm kind of focusing this on our young homemakers, because all of us, no matter where we are in the journey, either we know a young homemaker. It can be someone in our family. It can be someone at our church. It can be someone that we happen to run into and we're talking to at the grocery store. That's happened where I've run into somebody at a grocery store and I'm standing over the meats or I'm standing over the vegetables, and a conversation ensues. And we start to talk about, what can we do with this? How might that look? You know what? Here's an easy recipe. Here's an opportunity for you to be able to put this, this, and this and together for them. So we want to be able to share and to give as much information to those who are coming behind us. If you're 30 years old, you still have younger people who are coming to where you are, and they are trying to learn as much as they can about becoming a home cook. Now, I love Food Network. We have a channel and that's called Create TV. And some of you may have it. It's probably at all different kinds of time, but it's usually connected to the PBS channel. And so, and I know BBC has some cooking shows as well. And I got caught up in it because, oh man, they can put together dishes that just, they're on point, they're beautiful, the whole to do. And certainly when we're having company, we want to be able to have those beautiful dishes. And we want to be able to share whatever it is that we know with our family, and we're hoping that our family is going to appreciate all the effort that we're putting into it, and most of the time they do. But I had a situation last week, and I may have shared a tiny bit with you, but with this show being on Monday, I had company coming in on Thursday that I needed to prepare dinner for. And so I wanted it because they're only here maybe once a year. And so I wanted what they were going to eat that night for dinner to be very special. So I started prepping early. So as soon as I got off the show on Monday, I put the fresh homemade bread together, put it in the refrigerator. And I think if you're on Instagram, you may have seen it when it finally came out of the oven on Thursday. And so the bread came out amazing. And, it had time enough to sit in the refrigerator. It was so easy to handle. And it was certainly a wonderful mix. And my company just thought I had just done something so amazing because we had homemade bread. And it's fun to be able to do at least one thing, because the rest of the meal was pretty normal. I had baked chicken and rice because we're trying to watch what we eat, and and they aren't real fried food people, but so I baked and grilled. And so so as you're thinking about your being a home cook, and maybe one day developing some of the skills of the home chef, that maybe you'll be at that point where it will be so easy to go in the kitchen and whatever it is that you have, you can whip up a meal very quickly for your family and everyone will be happy. Now, I have taken a look. Sometime our husbands become the home cook. And that happened for us for a while. My husband had retired when he retired. I was working. He stepped in. He became the home cook. But you know what? The funny thing is, as soon as I retired, then he handed it back to me, and he hadn't stepped not one foot into that kitchen since then. And I'm always trying to nudge him back in so we could be in here together. I think it would be a lot of fun. And he's going, no, 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 no. You go ahead. I like your cooking better. And which is fine. So anyway, let's get into what we're going to talk about today. Now, remember, we talked about the fact, and I think most of you that I'm looking at, these things certainly fit you. Is first of all, our home cook is a person who is probably only cooks in their home. And of course, that's why we call them home cook. But you could be a home cook and work in a restaurant. So, you can do both. But most home cooks only cook at home. Home cooks are usually um, they're not as perfect. They might look at a recipe, read a recipe, and if they've been cooking long enough, they're going to take their recipe and they're going to make it theirs. They're going to start to throw in a little extra of this, add a little extra of that. They're going to taste it and say, it needs cinnamon. So they're going to throw that in, or it needs a little nutmeg, and they're going to throw some of that in. And you really have to keep up with them. And actually, the cooks of the past, that's exactly what they did. They didn't worry about all those recipes. They just started to put things in. The home cook also has a tendency to really stray from the recipe. They'll start out with one recipe and they end up with something totally different. But the home cook will do that, where the home chef usually has a set plan and sticks to it because they know that they have perfected it, and they want to prepare the same dish over and over and over and over again, because home chefs think, okay, if I prepare, let's say, a classic chili, then every time I fix a classic chili, it needs to taste the same. And so chefs are thinking that each time they prepare a particular dish, that they always have to be the same. The home chef is thinking, nah, I'm gonna put a little twist to that and change that around. And that's a great thing. Now, for those of you who are out there who may be new to our channel of Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme, and you have joined us at lunchtime, just take a moment, please, to go down below the video and you'll see the like button. Give me a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, please be sure to hit that subscription button before you leave today. And I hope that you'll be able to stay with us throughout the show. And if you have a chance, share it with somebody else, because I know all of us have other people who perhaps are looking at the things that we're looking at. So we want to share those things so that they will also gain some of the knowledge that we're gaining and be a part of the discussion in the description box. Now, the home cook typically is the person who's responsible for keeping the pantry full, keeping the refrigerator full, keeping the freezer full. That's what the home cook is all. That's what they do. They're responsible for that. They are responsible for the menu plan, what the meal's going to be for the week. And I have to say, um, I was not. I won't say I wasn't blessed, but I was unable to see my grandmother in the kitchen. And I'm looking at I'm looking, and I'm going to come back to some others. Patricia said she never saw her grandmother use a recipe unless it was baking bread, cakes, or pies. And that is probably typical because, when you're baking, your quantities are a little more exact, especially for the flour to the spices to whatever it is that you're going to put in it. But now they might certainly change up. If it's a pie instead of apple pie, they might make it a peach pie or might make it a sweet potato pie. And I'm thinking of sweet potato. I have a sweet potato on the brain. Denise and I were talking about sweet potatoes this past weekend. And so I've had all kinds of sweet potato things going through my head. But you know what? But the crust, when you think about the crust, you have a formula for putting that crust together to get the best crust that you want. You just can't start slopping some flour in a bowl and this in the bowl and think that your crust is going to come out perfect, because it's not. So in that case, you need a more exact recipe. And certainly bread can be tricky. All of us know that. Whether it's biscuits, whether it's a loaf of bread, whether it's a bowl of bread, it doesn't matter. Bread can be tricky. So we have to make sure that we follow the recipe. And heaven knows you can mess up a cake very quickly if you don't follow the recipe. So, we seen, and I can say, I didn't get to see my grandmother in the kitchen, but I did get to see my mom in the kitchen. And when she had something that she needed to bake, she had her recipe. If she didn't have the recipe, she didn't prepare that. Now, anything else, she could put it together, and it was always a lot of fun. Uh, let's see. I'm looking at Ronnie. She said she never thought her husband was going to go back to work. Geez, I didn't want him cutting into my Leona time, but I do appreciate that he's able to come home. Oh, that's nice that he's able to come home for lunch. That is so nice. So now, Ronnie, because he's able to come home for lunch, do you prepare a really nice lunch, or are you utilizing leftovers, or do you kind of put 5 days of lunches together, put them in the refrigerator, have them ready to go? Tell us how you're going to work that, or how you do work that for your hubby. um, I really love being able to prepare lunch, and I don't prepare lunch like I do dinner. I think about what lunch is going to be for the week, because I tend not to be a person who eats um, lunch per se. What I do is that typically I don't eat breakfast. And so when I eat at about 11:30, 12 o'clock, that's brunch for me. So it's usually a sandwich or a salad or something like that, which makes it a little quick and a little easy, and I can put it together in advance and have it ready to go. And so usually whatever I eat, the big guy eats. So let's see. Ronnie's saying that her husband, okay, will eat dinner leftovers. Oh, that's wonderful. Aha. So then after he leaves for lunch, she says, then she starts preparing for dinner. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not going to wait until the last minute. I try to um, get the prepping done early so that I know what it's going to be. Now, if it's something that has to go into the oven, then I'll put it all together and stick it into the refrigerator. And then about an hour before dinner, it'll go into the oven and it'll be ready to go. And that's what I did the other day for my guest. I had everything laid out, put it in and had it in the refrigerator about an hour before time for dinner. I put it into the oven, and when they walked into that door, the fragrance of food was filling the house, and I was pulling things out, bubbly, hot, and ready to go. Now I can tell you this funny story just because we're all buddies. And the funny thing is, well, it wasn't funny at that time. We are having some problems with a little bit with flooding. And for last week, it just seemed like it rained and rained and rained. And because of that, um, there was some water backup somewhere in the pipes in the neighborhood. So they had to cut the water off. Well, now dinner was supposed to be at 5 o'clock. Guess what time they cut the water off? At 4. Now, what if I had waited until 4 o'clock to start prepping dinner for 5? I would have been in a tizzy. No water. And you know what? It was off totally for about 2.5 hours. But fortunately, everything was ready. Everything was hot. It was all cooked. The drinks were done. Everything was done. So we didn't miss a beat. We didn't miss a beat. We served dinner right at 5 o'clock and we were ready to roll. So that's something to keep in mind. If you know you have friends that are coming, my suggestion is never wait until last minute, because you never know when things will happen that may interfere with your plans. So we want to make sure that we do that. Now, in talking about our home cook, let me tell you why the home cook really is so important. It's because of the fact that our responsibility is not just about cooking a meal. Our responsibility goes beyond that. As we're preparing the meal, we are the ones who are looking at the energy and the health of our family and ourselves. We're responsible for that. So if we find, if for instance, if we find that someone in our family is gluten free and can't have certain things, then as the home cook preparing for the family, then we're going to try to be careful, very careful about what we put into the food that we're preparing. We're going to try our best not to add any of the ingredients that person cannot have, so that when everyone sits down to the table, we can all eat together. And so, and we're all eating the same thing. Now, another thing is that we not only are we responsible for the health and the energy and the welfare of our family through food and the things that they're eating and drinking, we have to look at the quality of the ingredients that we're using. And I've been looking at comparing grocery stores as we go to grocery stores, and we're kind of focused on the price, but sometimes the focus on the price has to stand aside, because we have to look at what's best for our family. So as we're shopping, we're trying to find that particular item. Say if we're looking for apples. Now we could certainly go over in the sales section and grab some apples. But when we get them home and they're washed, we look at them and they are so beat up, to the point of where the only thing we can do is to peel them, slice them, and maybe put them in a pie or maybe in some bread. But just to eat them, just as an apple fresh, we may not be able to do that. So if the plan is to have fresh fruits and vegetables provided for your family, then the home cook has to know that they're going to have to look for the better quality fruits and vegetables along the way. We can, as home cooks, we can also control our cooking methods. Now, Here at the house, my stove is acting a little funny. And so today I was going online shopping. I was going from site to site to site looking at stoves, trying to decide what this one will one of these days become. And so trying to see what type of cooking method do I want to use, and what is it that I really want to be able to get from the stove? What am I going to use the most? And the stove that we have in the house is the one that came with the house. And so I've used it and worked it until he's about to fall apart. And so, I don't feel bad about the fact that we need to buy a new one, but it's just that now that I can do the selection, I need to do my homework. And that's my responsibility because I'm the home cook. And as we look at that, I also know that we do more grilling and baking and sauteing. We're doing more and more of that. We're not doing as much. I know my mom fried a lot. She fried pork chops, she fried the chicken, she fried the fish. That's 3 days of the 5. Fried, fried, fried. Because we always had chicken, we always had some kind of pork one day, and we always had fish on Friday. And so you figure, as you think about your diet and you're becoming more health conscious about your diet, which all of us are today, because we're finding that some of the things that we had been eating probably wasn't quite as healthy as it could have been. Was it good? Oh, yes, it was definitely good. But we're trying to improve that and trying to find new ways to be able to accomplish what we want. So instead of deep frying, we may put the chicken together and bake it in the oven and have oven fried chicken instead. And then that way we're not using so much of the oils and the grease, those kinds of things. And I don't, when you have, I was fortunate when as a young homemaker, because I was surrounded by good cooks. Now, let me tell you, one of the people, and to be honest with you, she was probably as close to a grandmother that I could have possibly have had. And bless her heart, she's gone on. But let me tell you, I hung on to everything she told me because she had a family with 12 children. So when she told me how to grocery shop, I listened, even though at that point I only had the big guy and myself. But I listened because she had words of wisdom on how to stretch your food. Because when you have 12 children plus 2 adults, that's 14 people every day to sit down at her table. And that's exactly what they did at a set time. I think it was 6 o'clock, if I remember correctly. At 6 o'clock, they sat down to dinner every day, all 14. So I listened to what she said. My mother was a great cook. She had a friend who was actually a caterer, and they worked together sometimes on some of the projects that she was doing. And so I learned some things from them. And so I find that what of those young homemakers that are around me, some you may have 1 out of 10 who's really listening as you're not standing over them, preaching over them, because they really won't listen. But as you're doing something, if you can catch their interest, then and they ask, how'd you do that? Then that gives you an open door to be able to share your home cooking tips with them. And that's kind of what happened with me. I always wanted to know what she was doing, what she was cooking, and how she did that. And so that was usually my question. So we know who the home cook is. We know why the home cook is so important, because the home cook keeps the family healthy. What's the word? Healthy, wealthy, and wise. They keep their families together. And that's important to me, because here at Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme, we do things in the kitchen, and we're doing things for the kitchen and for the family. So we want to make sure that when we sit down to that table, that we've done our homework. We've done our homework. And that doesn't mean that we've got to spend hours and hours and hours and hours trying to put our menus together. But we're trying to be creative as we navigate the grocery, as we navigate our plans, as we do all the things we have to do every day. And, for those of us who may not have to stop, like in the case of Ronnie, where she has to stop and make sure that her hubby has lunch at lunchtime, and then she can get back into her routine of the things that she's doing. And so we have to think about those things along the way, because all of that's important. And while it's kind of Ronnie, I'm teasing, so just know this: I am teasing. But if the big guy came home every day and I had to stop and fix his lunch, and sometimes I have to be honest with you. If he golfs all day and then he comes home, most of the time he eats before he gets home. But sometimes he comes in and it's like, well, what's for lunch? Well, I'm in the middle of doing something else. And it's like, I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to have to stop and fix lunch. But you know what? I do it because I'm the home cook. I love him. We love our families, and we want them to be happy. So when you're doing those kind of things for your family, no matter who it is, no matter what time it is, you're doing it out of love. Um, let's see, what was I saw hello, hello. Anne's telling us that she has 4 sisters, and they're all good home cooks. Oh, Anne. Anne says she doesn't have any confidence in the kitchen. Yeah, Anne. You know what? Sometimes we know a lot more than what we think. And we just have to get in there, keep trying, keep trying. I am a firm believer that if it's something you really, if once you get into a rhythm, you enjoy it. And even if it means on Mondays you have spaghetti, on Tuesday you have roast beef. On Wednesday, you kind of have a set 5 days of what it is. Well, the first time you do those 5 days, it might not be that great. But by the time you get to week 5 of doing those 5 days, then you're going to be rocking those dishes. And at that point, you can go in the kitchen with your eyes closed and get it done. So those things that you enjoy and those things that you prepare, then it's all about practice. It's all about practice. We just keep going at it. We just keep trying it and thinking, now, how can I do that better this time? And so that's what we're usually taking a look at. Now, I was talking to someone who was talking about the grocery and the fact that they were struggling with, excuse me, the grocery bill. And, it is a struggle. It's a struggle for all of us. And, I try to stay positive about it because I know it's not going to last forever. And because we've had inflation before and we survived, we got through it. It wasn't pleasant, but we got through it. Praise God that we were able to get on the other side of it and move on. And so I look at what we're going through now as that same situation. And and so I'm gonna have to come back to Ronnie. But as you think about those things, it's important to both yourself, to your family, to do your best, whatever that is, and wherever that is. What my best is may not be your best right now, but understand, I didn't start out here. We all started at the beginning, at square one. We all start at square one. When we look at our moms and our grandmothers who were excellent cooks, they had a square one. We just didn't know them then when they didn't know a lot. But you know what? It took practice and practice and practice. And eventually they got to the point of where the things that they were doing and the things that we're doing, we're able to put together. And it looks so easy, looks like, oh, look at that. And understand, the first time it happened, it didn't look like that. I told you all the biscuit story of where the dog would not even eat my first batch of biscuits. And my husband said he was going to use them as hockey pucks. But now, after practice and practice and practice, everybody wants the biscuits. They all want to eat those biscuits. And so it does. It takes practice. One other thing, while we're here and talking about that practice, and I encourage my young homemakers, one of the major skills that you really do want to learn is bread making. We spend, as a nation, a lot of money on bread. Where it doesn't matter if it's gluten free, if it's rye, if it's whole wheat, or whatever it is. But whatever your favorite bread is, now is the time to get your hands floury and learn how to do it from scratch. You know, thinking, I love positive thinking, but I'm also cautious. So as we think about being cautious, should we get in a situation, and I'm going to use a situation that just almost brings me to tears. As I think about Ukraine, and I think about the people of Ukraine. Oh, Patricia, thank you so much. You are so sweet. So sweet. Thank you. Thank you. As I think about the people of Ukraine, they are struggling right now. And when they go back, and I'm thinking positive, the time is coming when they're going to be able to go back and they're going to start to rebuild. Well, initially, they probably aren't going to have all the grocery stores set up, but they're still going to have families to feed. And so, because of that, the Italian mamas, that's how they got into the bread baking and the pasta making, because there were no grocery stores for them to go to get that. So they had to get in there and start using their hands and putting the bread together. And it's funny because there are male bakers who really bake better than the women. And so, they're able to do that. So we have to think about the fact that today, yes, we have our grocery store. Yes, we are blessed in that, if we don't want to or we can't, we can go to a store and we can pick up the breads that we need. But if our babies are sitting there at the table and they are hungry and we are unable to get to the grocery store, whether it's because of flood, snow, ice, or whatever the situation may be, we can certainly put together a loaf of bread and slice that bread so that everyone has something to eat. So those are things we have to think about, because even back in the days of the Bible, they made bread and they sat down together and broke bread together. And that's what our families are doing. When we spend that family time, it's about bringing our family, our community together to break bread together. And so we want to be able to do that. And I didn't I told you I didn't have, my mom cooked, but she didn't really teach me how to cook. I kind of had to learn by trial and error. And so the first year or two were a little rough because every day was a trial and error. And so poor big guy, he was my test test guinea pig of trying all the new recipes. But thank goodness, he never had to go to the hospital. No, neither one of us did. We made it through, and that's a good thing. I'm gonna go back here and catch Ronnie because this is so funny. She said she bites her tongue a lot, and some days she feels taken for granted. Oh my gosh, Ronnie, we are all in that basket with you. And so under her breath, she'll say, I'm not your maid. But she says she really does love to do what she does for her family. And certainly, Ronnie, it is so worth it. And I think back to my mom, and I probably didn't say thanks, mom, enough. Every now and then, I'd be in one, I thank you, mom. But I did not thank her enough because of the sacrifices that she made. And one of these days, I'll talk about those sacrifices. And so she really didn't teach me to cook because her thing was go to school, learn everything you can learn, go to college, get more than one degree, do this, that, and the other. And so I did. And cooking was the last thing on my mind. Ronnie said she was never taught how to cook. Oh, and so she appreciates myself and Denise so much. Oh, Ronnie, you are so sweet. Well, we are certainly enjoying it and being able to show you as much. And you and everyone else, we're sharing. And somebody this morning on YouTube was talking about sharing is caring. That's my granddaughter's thing. Whenever she shares something, she'll say, Here, Mimi, I'm sharing. Sharing is caring. And so that's what we're doing. We are sharing because, our great grandmothers and grandmothers passed their recipes down back in the day because they'd have some kind of little piece of paper that they had scribbled a recipe on, and they stuck it in something safe eventually, and they passed it on to someone else. And they either passed it on to their daughters, or if their sons were interested, then they passed it on to their sons. And so but we, as more mature cooks, more mature home cooks, we need to pass it down. We can't hold on to this information. And to me, I feel honestly that I don't think we will be blessed if we just, hey, I already know it. And you got to figure it out for yourself. No, I need to share it so that when you're ready to listen, it's right there for you to be able to have. And hopefully, they're going to listen while I'm still here to look at them. Because I can admit, I did, I learned so much. I called my mom up and asked for information. She'd give it to me because I asked. But what I didn't learn how to make at the time my mom was still living was gravy. And it was the first Thanksgiving after she had gone on that I had gotten the whole meal ready. I had a house full of company because my husband has a large family, and it was time to put the turkey gravy together. Well, I froze because it was like, I'm not sure I can do this. All I could do was kind of sort of remember what she did, because every Thanksgiving she would come and make the gravy. And so I kind of stand over her. And so that day forward, I was determined that I would know how to do it, and that I wouldn't let her down. And so I remember her little tips and things that she did. Sometime it worked, sometime it didn't. Sometime I'd have to tweak it a little bit, but I learned. And it's funny because I don't think I've really badgered my daughter about learning how to cook, and she never really had to cook in the kitchen. But the reality of it is that she has sense, and she says it every now and then. She's doing what the rest of us are talking about. She'll say, "Mom, I am so glad you showed me how to do such and such. I remember when we got in the kitchen and we did this together." And I'm thinking, uh-huh. And see, at the time we did it, I was doing it for me because I wanted to have that mother and daughter time together. Little did I know the impression that it made on her. So if you have daughters, hang close to mom, whomever that home cook is, because their knowledge is just going to melt off of them and right on to you. And it is great. It is great. Let me hold on one second. Let's see. I've got Sue. Sue says a light bulb went off for her when she said our mothers had to start from square one. She said she really hadn't thought about that. Sue, you're right. Because when I think of my mom, I think of her being in the kitchen and she knew what she was doing. Man, she could just turn in that kitchen. And now, I'm thinking there was probably a time when she didn't know what she was doing either. And she had to learn, she had to go through the practice and the testing. And that is certainly the case. Um, Patricia said, she said this is exactly why she started her extended pantry, because she wanted to make sure her family is always fed. You're absolutely right, Patricia. There are just some things that um, now that I look back, and it has been so helpful for me, because I've had to really look inside and really take a deep look back, because that's where I usually start, looking at something here. You start with yourself and then work out. And so my mom always had additional food. She had the regular kitchen cabinets and it was full of food, those kind of things. But back in the older houses, they didn't have pantries like we have in all the newer homes. And I say newer as for, I guess, back to the 70s. Most of the houses from there have pantries of some sort, whether it's little, medium size or huge. But the good thing is that I learned from her to always have extra food. And in her case, when I see what is it? I think it's Jacksonville, Mississippi, where they're having the problem with water. I had a friend that worked with me, and she, for some reason, it was always on her, in her conversation, on her heart. She would always look at me and she'd say, "Make sure that you are storing water." make sure that while you're storing your food, store water, because she said, "What the day's going to come when you may not have access to good water. So make sure you always have water." And I kind of took that for granted. Oh yeah, and I'd smile nicely, and I might have a gallon. But then I started to kind of look around at what was going on in the environment and in our country and with the weather and with craziness that's going on. I thought she was right. We need to keep some water because, and then after Thursday in my house, we had no water for 2.5 hours. So thank goodness that I had plenty of bottled water. And so, those are things that we don't think about. But when you can find water on sale, get a few cases of water and keep them so that should something happen, you have water. And that's something we really do need, probably even more so than even food, is the water. Ronnie, Patricia's talking to Ronnie, saying, "Girl, she's right there with her. Sometimes I think, does anyone besides me know how to cook?" They do know, but they don't wanna. That's what it is. They just don't want to. Sue is saying that, sharing with us, she lived in a rural area. Her mom, my mom didn't drive either. Oh my gosh, Sue, and couldn't go anywhere until Dad got home. Oh, jeez, I am here. I'm still amazed at how she kept the house and the food together, and we rarely ran out of ingredients and other items. That just that gives me the chills, Sue. Wow. And we weren't in a rural area. We lived in the downtown area. But my mom was, for some reason or other, afraid of driving. So she didn't drive either. And so when we went to the grocery store, she had to wait till Dad got home. And then she would go to the grocery store. But now she was very good about Saturday was grocery day. So we knew half the morning was going to be going to the grocery store. She had a list this long, and we made sure we had everything we need because she knew she couldn't just run back and forth. Oh wow, that really does bring back a real memory. Emma, hello, Emma. We're so glad you got here. Oh, neat. You got your dinner in the oven. Yum, yum. What are you fixing? I know it's got to be something good. Hello, Elizabeth. Glad to see you. Yay. So, we are going to um, take, I will probably start about somewhere in the middle of October. And stuffed peppers, Emma. That sounds good. We're going to start taking a look at Thanksgiving. And, well, we're going to say the holiday. We're going to look at not only just on Mondays, but I'm going to start doing some things on Saturday, some things on Wednesday that will help us in getting ourselves prepared for the holiday, because we are not going to wait until the last minute. There are things that we can do in advance that we can get done that will save us so that we can enjoy our holiday. And, even though so many families, everybody throws in, everybody brings something. But in my household, everybody brought things, but I always cooked a full meal. And the reason I did that was because once people take their dishes away, I wanted to be able to have leftovers. I wanted to be able to say 2 days down the road, say like if Thanksgiving, which Thanksgiving is, Thanksgiving's on Thursday, when Sunday comes, we would sit down and have another Thanksgiving dinner. And I would already have the macaroni and cheese done, I already have the greens done, I already have the sweet potatoes done, I already have the cranberry sauce, all those kind of things were already done. Now, of course, there's some things we can't do in advance, but if you're planning to have as one of the desserts cookies, you can do cookies in it ahead of time. If you plan to have a variety of breads, you can certainly go ahead, and if you want to have some biscuits, you can prepare the biscuits, freeze them, have them in your freezer. You can prepare the Parker House rolls. You can wrap them well, and actually you won't cook them. You will make sure they rise. You will do all of that. We will do that together, and we will have them ready for the freezer. So when the time comes for us to sit down and have a Thanksgiving dinner, it's going to be like I was the other day. 1 hour, things in the oven. In an hour, everything comes out, and wash their hands, and we're ready to sit down and have a meal. And everyone is happy. So I am so excited because we're going to look at some of the skills our young homemakers need. Our young homemakers, I have been watching. I've got a few who are in and out of here. And bless their hearts, they're good as gold. And they always want to eat whatever it is. But Lord, hand them a knife to cut something, and it's rough. And so you're kind of starting to show them what they should do, and they think that they should be able to cut it as fast. They want to be able to chop, chop, chop the way that Gordon Ramsay does, the way that Ming Tsai does, the way that but they didn't start that way, and neither did we. So they have to take their time and get the job done. So we're going to talk about what are those skills that we need to be able to practice and to encourage. I got my grands some practice tools that are safe, that they can practice their cutting skills. Two of my granddaughters can go in the kitchen, and they can bake a cake, they can cook a meal. I just have to be there to kind of make sure that there aren't don't they won't forget something. So that's a lot of fun, and they're doing the work. I'll say, you're gonna cook tonight, all right. And what are we fixing? And whatever it is they want to fix, that's what they get to do. And so we just make sure we're just encouraging along the way so that they'll have that opportunity to get in the kitchen, get down dirty in the kitchen, and learn how now, while they're young, how to become a home cook. Now, Patricia said, oh, this is Ronnie. When she first started making Thanksgiving dinner for her family, she would wake up at 3 a.m. and make everything the same day. Oh my goodness. My mom did too, but that was her plan, because in her mind, you just couldn't. Well, no, I'm going to take that back. She did not have enough freezer space or refrigerator space to put a lot of extra things in the refrigerator. So because of that, she was kind of stuck doing things at 3 a.m. And so you woke up Thanksgiving morning to all kinds of wild smells, and you could hear her in there clicking and clanking and stirring, and things were going. But that's what Thanksgiving's all about, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And it's just, it became a part of the holiday. And for me, when all that's happening, it certainly takes me back to my childhood. Patricia says she's really looking forward to preparing as much as possible in advance. Usually every Thanksgiving and Christmas, she's exhausted by the time dinner's put on the table. Patricia, I'm with you. And it's you're preparing as much ahead so that because sometimes the home cook is the one who everybody has eaten. They've walked out of the kitchen, and maybe at your house this might happen. If you have any men in the house, they're probably sitting there in front of the football game, sleep, and guess who's in the kitchen cleaning up all these dishes? And so because I like dishes, I like actual dinnerware for Christmas and Thanksgiving. And I know young homemakers now are using, the pretty paper plates, heavy duty paper plates, or they're using the, what is it, cornet, or I can't remember the name of the plates, but they're heavy, and they're able to use those, and they're great. But your table just looks so pretty when you have your actual dinnerware. So we're going to try to get all that done. And Patricia, we're going to try to get it done in advance as much as possible so that you're able to enjoy your holiday as much as everyone else. Sue said, oh, yes, we're going to try to get prepared, Sue, before that holiday because we want to be able to certainly enjoy the time and have delicious food. Plus, we want to be able to catch some of those sales that are going to come along because what's going to happen the day after Thanksgiving. Got to go shopping, do a little bit of shopping. Her grandmother, Ronnie said, is 7 years old and she's already helping in the kitchen. Oh, that is precious. And that's what you want. Now is the time. Uh, oh, how sweet of you. Yes, I do have last year's and some of the previous year's holiday videos. So things like greens, green beans, those kind of things are already out there. Sweet potatoes, corn pudding, those kind of things are already out there. Park house rolls, they're already out there. And I'm putting together. I did this last week, and I can't remember if I deployed it or not, but I put a separate playlist for holiday meals. Now, what that playlist is going to, and I'm going to have to talk fast because I know I'm probably over somebody's lunchtime, but I put together a playlist for holiday types of items, not just the turkey, not just, the greens, the typical things, stuffing, those kind of things, but I also added some additional one pot and slow cooker meals for those times when you're trying to prep and to get ready for the big holiday. You can put a slow cooker meal in. So that day you have a great meal, but you threw it all in the slow cooker and it was done. So you didn't have to worry about it. And you could go ahead doing the things you needed to do for the holiday. So that we're going to talk about being able to juggle, some of the things. And this month, when you look at the one plan, 1 month coming up, you're going to see that there are some specific slow cooker meals and some specific sheet pan meals, those kind of things, because you want to start collecting those things and those ideas. So when it's time and you need them for whatever the holiday may be, then you have those ready to go. So we're going to take a look. Patricia says she prefers her real dishes and no paper plates. All right, I'm with you. I empty that dishwasher and I probably run it twice on the holiday. I run it early and then I run it so that it is finished before dinner time. So all the dishes and I dishwash my dinnerware and it goes in. If it can't go in the dishwasher, then this girl is not using it, especially for the holiday. So some things we may not be able to do. So we're going to take a look at skills. Take a look early at holiday prepping so we can get things ready. And I will make absolutely sure that I have that playlist as tight and complete as possible so that you can start thinking about some of the things that you may normally prepare for the holiday that's already out there. And some of the things I can tell you I'll probably do again because of the fact at this point, my videos are probably a little better than what they used to be. And so, because some of them are early videos, so you're going to go, oh my God, I can't believe she did that. And so, we're going to try to improve along the way. Guys, this has been an amazing lunchtime. Oh my goodness, I have loved it so much. You have helped me to smile and to remember. And Sue, you will just never know. You just made my day today. And Ronnie, oh geez, Patricia, all of you, and God bless you. Emma, I hope your dinner's amazing. And we are just going to have a wonderful time together. Deb, I hope you're still there. Cindy, all of you. I am so happy that you are here with me, and anyone that I don't see who may be out there who I may not see your name here, but certainly if you are new to us, come on by at lunchtime because we have a ball. And it's always about things in the kitchen and things that are for the kitchen. And you know, I will be posting, I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to be posting something on the community page that I got to do this weekend. Excuse me. And for some of you, you're going to go, oh, is it that time? And for some of you, you're going to go, oh, it's that time again. And so that's all I'm going to say. So God bless each of you. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful rest of the day and have an amazing week. And I can't wait. I'll see you Wednesday and then I'll see you Saturday. So have a wonderful time in your kitchen with your family. God bless. Mwah. See you soon.